lecture slash makeup class. I'm going to primarily be talking about peer review and what to do. This tip sheet is on the week 4 module, which is up. I'm just going to go over each thing quickly a little bit, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm expecting in peer review, and then also make sure to watch the Canvas video on how to do a peer review in Canvas with the speed grader, or I don't know what they call it for you guys. For me, it's a speed grader. But in that feature of your assigned peer review, there is a video to watch. You want to really watch that, pay attention, because that'll walk you guys through it. You won't get the chance to ask me how to do it until Tuesday. Um, so if you want to get your thing done and out of the way, go watch that video. It'll walk you through it. There's also another video on like how to do a peer review, and they have some pretty helpful tips and things that they discuss in general on how to do it, and also the actor students, the criticism and feedback they give is thoughtful and the sort of stuff you would want to imitate, not as boilerplate and generic as the movie, but their video, but do it that way. Be thoughtful, be critical, give feedback, ask for clarity, help them build a stronger paper. And keep in mind, this isn't a finished product. This is them grappling with their ideas and trying to create a paper. So here are our peer review tips. Let's just get to it. First and foremost, before you even make your first comment, read the document all the way through. That should be a no-brainer, but if you're anything like me, you have a hard time not going, okay, let me start annotating right away. You don't want to do that. You want to read all the way through, kind of take in their paper as a whole, and then come back and start making your revisions on and giving them feedback on how to improve their paper. Again, make sure you leave enough time to read through, respond, and for your peer to edit his or her document with your comments before any deadline. So you guys won't have to really worry about this per se, but give yourself plenty of time to do this before Wednesday. You have to have it done Wednesday, and then the paper is due the following Sunday, so it's not really a time crunch for you guys. It's just getting it done. You guys are going to have to fill out the feedback form that I gave you guys. And if it's unclear, don't ignore whatever's unclear. Ask me for clarification, and we'll get you going on it. So, one thing I want you guys to do is to state in your own words the writer's thesis. What is his or her specific argument about the rhetoric surrounding a particular issue? In other words, what is their main claim, and what is the evidence they are using to support that claim? If you have difficulty paraphrasing their thesis, then then you should say so and explain why, and also attempt to explain what might help make it clear. So if you're struggling to pick up, in this case, your peers' statement of whether or not they believe the essay they read was an effective piece of rhetoric or an article that served its purpose. If you can't get that, then they may need to make that clear. Yeah, so that's what you need to be able to do, and that should come from them having a clear thesis statement about what they're trying to do. So you as a writer also make sure you have a clear thesis statement that you believe that the author is doing a good job or bad job of being persuasive or informing or whatever their article is doing, based on your rhetorical analysis. And again, that rhetorical analysis will be breaking down things that they do to like either persuade or inform you depending on the purpose of the article, but you will be evaluating parts. If they're using statistics effectively, that is something you can say is a good rhetorical move, and grabs parts where they do use those statistics and explain how it enhances their argument, that sort of a thing. Yes. Next one, you will want to point out the places in the draft where you think that the writer is providing convincing evidence for their thesis. These should be passages of text that the writer is rhetorically analyzing, pulling apart, and commenting on in order to show persuasion at work. And again, I leave persuasion there because it can be to inform or persuade or express the self, those sort of things. But you're going to find most of these are trying to persuade or inform you on an episode and on a issue. So that's exactly what you're doing in your rhetorical analysis, just for future reference in case you are still struggling with it in this rough draft. You are breaking it down into its parts so you can talk about how an author uses statistics or how they use their tone or how they use a certain appeals and certain ways and together to make a convincing argument or not. You will want to point out the places in the draft where the writer needs to provide more evidence for claims that are not supported with examples or great analysis. Suggest possible ways to develop that evidence. Then you're going to want to list those places in the draft that you think that they might not belong or be off focus. Like you can tell them how to edit them, how to reel them in, and then maybe even suggest cutting them if they're far off. If somebody is on a rant or a tangent about something that isn't really focusing on the rhetorical effectiveness of the article they're working with or an aspect of the rhetoric that the author is using. The rhetorical things the author is using to inform, persuade, whatever. You will want to tell them that those things might not necessarily be right for the art essay, or how they can wrangle them in and get them to connect. Also you'll want to be looking at their organization. Should the paper be reorganized? If there is any sections that need to be moved elsewhere. So if you see them struggling with grouping things together and they go talking about the tone and then they go about the statistics and they circle back to tone, they may want to move that tone section up so it's all together, or restructure their introduction so that it tells you that they're talking about from strongest to weakest, so that if it's going tone, then this, and then tone again, but that wouldn't make sense. But yeah, if they're doing that, but they're going strongest to weakest, and they have tone twice, you may want to tell them combine those into one, that sort of a thing. You want to be nice. That's a thing you want to do. So, like, what is working well in the draft? What is meeting the assignment needs? And go ahead and look back at the rubric, the assignment sheet, the handout that I gave you. There's tons of things to give you guys an idea of what this assignment should be. And again, it's literally just breaking down your article into pieces and examining those pieces and to see how they all work together to create a persuasive argument or not a persuasive argument. So that's your basic assignment. You'll want to point out any ways that it is not meeting the assignment needs, and then how could they be resolved. So again, if they're off target or they're not rhetorically analyzing, or yeah, or they're not explicitly connecting things to rhetorical analysis, or they're just not rhetorically analyzing and they're giving more summary, that sort of a thing you'd want to make sure they reel in and keep in the intro, and yeah, help them keep their art essay on track or cut things in general. Offer suggestions, not commands. Again, comes back to being nice. There are other people who are involved with this. You're helping them grow, so be nice. Don't just shut them down and be harsh. So you're again along the lines of being nice. Your comments should be appropriate and constructive. There is no need to be rude. Be respectful and considerate of the writer's feelings. Again, be nice. Give your criticisms, the things they can fix, but also the things they do well. I tend to like to do the compliment sandwich, where I come up with two things that they do well and then put the bad thing in the middle, so it's good, bad, good. So we're not ending on a sour note. Or if it's 50-50, I tend to like to get the criticism out of the way first and then end on the solid note, to kind of be like, here's what needs to be fixed, but here's what you're doing right to help build confidence, that sort of thing. So you want to do the same thing. You're trying to help build them up as writers, not tear them down. Be sure that your comments are clear and text specific, that you're appealing to what you're referring to. Don't say, don't use like terms of unclear or vague, are too general to be helpful. So you want to specifically be like, in this paragraph, this is happening. Don't be like, in paragraphs, you're vague. Which paragraphs are they vague in? Specifically highlight. Be like, in paragraphs 3 and 4, you do not offer enough analysis after pulling a quote. That's not just generic statements. That's very specific statements that will help them. And yeah, that'll help them. So as a reader, raise questions that cross your mind or points that might not have occurred to your peer or author. So if there is some rhetorical move that they are just really, really not in love with and not liking, you might bring up to play devil's advocate, be like, well, maybe they were trying to do this, and or just general questions that come up about the paper in general, things that you're missing. So yeah, or things that you need clarity on. Try not to overwhelm your peer with too much commentary. You don't want to make their paper bleed. Follow that feedback form I give you. Mark it up as much as necessary, but you don't want to be tearing every little line apart for every little thing. And again, this kind of comes back to what we've been talking about. Give them comments about the general ideas, about the structure, about the ideas within the paper, whether or not they're clear and being presented well, and whether or not they're organized logically, and whether or not the paper is cohesive and making sense and building on itself to a place that it needs to go. That sort of a thing is what you want to be doing. You don't want to be giving them information about sentence structure and like comma splices and grammatical errors. Those can come last if you really, really want to, but those aren't the things you want to be focusing on. If the paper has other weaknesses that could be picked up on first, you don't want to skip over those and do the easy work as much as you might want to just do the line editing and be like, here's your missed commas, here's this, that. You really want to give them feedback about the ideas contained within the paper and whether or not they're working well together, and whether or not their paper is making sense to you and coming across as a cohesive argument or statement about the rhetorical effectiveness of the piece that they read. Yeah. Again, read your comments before. Okay. Wait. Yeah. Be careful not to let your own opinions bias your review if you've read the same article. Yeah. So yeah, if you didn't like the article that your peer read and they're writing one that says yes, they liked it, don't necessarily be like, I'm gonna argue everything and use that as a platform to argue your take versus their take. Yeah, you don't want them to rewrite their paper because you don't necessarily agree with their point of view on the paper. You want to give them feedback on whether or not their point of view is being made well, or their statement or their stance on the author's rhetorical effectiveness. Yeah, and then the last one here comes back into that. Don't turn your peer's paper into your paper. Again, you want to make sure that their statement or their argument or their stance about the rhetorical effectiveness of the paper they're analyzing is coming through. You're not trying to turn it into your paper. I'm going to stop there. If you need more help on revision, office hours on Tuesday, we will have class on Wednesday. If you're listening to this now, you'll realize that Chapter 7 isn't in the weekly to-do list, but it's on the calendar. It'll be next week. So yeah, come to class ready to talk about peer reviews on Wednesday and tightening up those rhetorical analyses on the end of the week for the due date of next Sunday. See you guys in class. Email me tomorrow if you have questions. It'll probably be in the evening before I can see again, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys and have a good